This post is claiming that their DM has the worst magic item shops. Can't be that bad. Title really says it all. The party would look for a place to buy magical items, find one, and we'd ask what it carries. He'd get annoyed and say that he doesn't have an entire list prepared and that we should just ask what magic items it has. Cue all the players searching for what magic items they might want and asking if they have it. Wings of Flying? No. Cloak of Displacement? No. Hat of Disguise? Oh, yes. Headband of Intellect? Oh, no. So on, and so forth, for an hour or so. It couldn't have been that he just didn't like us shopping either, since we rarely got any magic items while adventuring. Just super weird. I don't even understand the purpose of this. I mean, is it just so he can delay and get like a couple Clash Royale matches in or something? I don't know. Perhaps some men just want to watch the world burn. I don't remember how exactly it happened, but a few years ago, I really got into D&D. Read most books, watched a bunch of videos, and sat through some live plays. Since none of the source books were translated to my language, and apart from a heavily marked up player's handbook, none of the books were available for purchase either. I just accepted it and thought I would never be able to play myself. At some point, I brought it up to a group of my friends that I found this really neat RPG and maybe we could play it sometime, and they were really receptive, so we started playing a game for my birthday. Of course, I would be the DM as nobody could be bothered to read any of the books or watch any videos on this game. I ordered dice, made their character sheets based on preference, drew up some maps, etc. I only asked them to make up some sort of backstory so their characters could have some semblance of a personality. So the cast turned out to be the following. Myself as a newbie DM, the only one with any grasp of the rules and wannabe writer. Faye, my girlfriend at the time, playing a dwarven war cleric. Ella, my little sister, who was happy to be included, playing a kitsune druid. Carl, he did not contribute much, and he was playing a human fighter. Bob thought everything was peak comedy, was hammered all game, played a ranger. James, our problem player, playing a rogue. For my birthday, I was hosting a house party for the friend group. Carl, Bob, and James were my high school friends. Ella was just around the house, and Faye was there for the weekend. We planned a big sleepover, which was pretty common for the group as we lived in different cities, and our house had enough room for people to sleep over. The guys arrived around noon, myself and Faye made dinner, and we all started drinking. Plan was to grab a few drinks and then sit down to play as long as we feel like, then drink some more and pass out. Solid plan, never failed us before. Apparently, it's important to mention that we were all 18/19, legal drinking age here, and my little sister was 15. I wrote up a pretty simple one-shot for the occasion. Party are all adventurers hired to go into a spooky, scary forest to look for a lady that went missing. Barebone stuff. I had a few encounters and a puzzle, then a boss fight against a heavily nerfed hag. I prepared a few extra things afterwards if we finished too early, and people were having fun, but we never even got to the hag. My girlfriend and sister both had pretty neat characters. My sister Ella even drew her character, and she was so excited for her druid. Ella didn't know any English at the time, so the character sheet was a little confusing to her, but she sat next to me so I could help her with everything. Faye, my girlfriend, just wanted to be a big, bearded dwarven lady who could hit things really hard, but also heal if it came down to it. Ella got really into it and made a whole backstory for her character that she now considers cringe, but back then she had a lot of fun with it. Faye also took some time to figure out backstory and even gave me a few ideas for NPCs that her character could know. Happy DM noises all around. Carl and Bob forgot that I asked for a backstory, so they were just there for the ride. Both ended up favoring combat over RP parts. Who could have foreseen that? And then there was James. James's character was the hardest for me to roll up since he would just hover over me and even made me share my screen with him when I was making his character just so he can make sure that I'm not ruining it. I told him that he can just read the rules and make his own character if he wanted, but no, obviously it was much easier for him to just micromanage me. It was a struggle, but his character, an assassin rogue, was made. He absolutely could not understand why he had to take any low numbers or why he couldn't be good at everything. We used standard array, so he had to put the 8 somewhere, and it ended up being intellect. He sent me art for his character, a very edgy looking drow girl with basically bikini armor and huge boobs. I sighed, cropped the pic so only the face is visible, and printed the sheet. The day before the game, he sent me a multiple page backstory for his character. I cannot remember the name of the rogue for the life of me. We'll call the character Edge. I wish I still had the doc, but I deleted it as soon as I read it. It was like 6 to 7 pages about how cool Edge was, that she was a master assassin who'd always find her mark, and nobody ever saw her. Nobody could even touch her, because that's just how good she was, etc. Also, very predictable edgy backstory. Her whole family was killed by someone. She got sent to an orphanage where she was abused by the nuns, then sold into slavery. She then killed the guy who bought her, and then lived on the streets where she learned how to be an assassin all on her own. She was a lone wolf who trusted nobody, of course. At that point, I was way too tired to argue with him about it. He often insulted my own writing, so I knew he'd never accept writing advice from me, so the only thing I told him was to make sure Edge has a reason to join the party.
Will there be other women in the party?
He asked. Yeah, Faye and Ella are both playing girls, I answered, unaware of why this was relevant to him.
Then she'll have reason enough.
Okay, I just assumed that he'd make Edge go with the group to make friends with the other girls because her backstory mentioned some kind of sisterhood, so I thought Edge preferred adventuring with other women? I was very, very wrong. So, the day of the game, we all ate, got a few drinks, and sat down to play. Bob was notoriously a lightweight, so he was already kind of spacey from just 2 shots and a beer, and Carl was always kind of a shy guy, so I never expected him to contribute too much. I secretly hoped that if they tried the game, they'll like it, and maybe we'll even start a campaign. The party met in the lobby of the local Adventurers Guild, all looking for work. I asked them all what they'd like to do. Carl and Bob just shrugged. Faye wanted to find the biggest guy there and arm wrestle him. Ella decided to play her harp and have a little Disney princess moment, singing with the local wildlife. James the Rogue, of course, sulked in the corner, then wanted to pickpocket everybody. He rolled decently, so I gave him some coin or whatever. He asked multiple times both Faye and Ella what their characters looked like. He argued with Faye that dwarven women can't have beards, and that made her character ugly. Faye just insisted she really liked her bearded strong woman, so James instead turned his attention towards my little sister Ella and her druid. Of course, Ella made a really pretty fox lady for her character and even showed off the drawing she made. She's in art school now, but even back then, her drawings were really beautiful. After they got hired for the job, James made it a point to travel close to Ella's character and kept complimenting her for singing and stuff like that. The two wanted to shop and get some items. I didn't prepare a shop, so I made up one on the spot with an NPC shopkeep. The NPC was a young, shy lady who stumbled through her words and was very nervous about a whole group of adventurers coming through her father's shop. James immediately asked what she looked like, even though I had already described her as having long brown hair in a braid, wearing big, thick glasses, and a blue dress with an apron. This poor NPC burned into my mind because of James. He kept asking what she looked like he didn't understand what I was saying.
But is she hot?
What? I asked, completely confused.
Like how big are her tits?
Dude, why is that even important? My girlfriend asked. She wanted to go hit things, and James was holding everything up. I don't know, average sized? I said, just to get this conversation over with.
Okay, I want to roll my charisma to flirt with her,
he said confidently. Faye just rolled her eyes. Fine, roll for it, but you have to tell me what you say to her as flirting. I gave in and kind of hoped that he wouldn't try to RP flirting with an NPC I was voicing. I only hoped that this was the case because we'd been friends all throughout high school, and he'd never shown any interest in me, and more importantly, my girlfriend was sitting right next to me. I hoped that the awkwardness of the whole thing would just make him give up. It did not. So he came up with some cheesy pickup line, and everyone starts laughing. We were having fun, right? So I allowed him to roll. It came up as a 19 or something high like that. Okay, the shopkeep is blushing. She doesn't know what to say, so she just keeps nervously fixing her braid, avoiding looking into your eyes. He could have given up at that point, but he didn't. He just kept on with this flirting. Bob thought that this was the funniest thing in the whole world, and Carl kept Googling more lines for him, so at least the boys were having fun. My sister just went back to perfecting her drawing, and Faye went to get another drink. I let it go for a bit. It was the first game I've ever run. I had no idea how to keep things moving. I had the yes and figured out, but I felt like I had no control over the situation. The boys were having such a good time, I thought it'd be rude to just move on and ignore it. I decided to step out for something, I think to go to the bathroom. When I get back, Faye had some sort of angry/disappointed look on her face, and the guys are just laughing their asses off. Ella was completely checking out, adding little birds to her drawings. I sat down, hoping that we can finally move on, but no such thing happened. "I think we flirted enough. Can Edge just sleep with her already?" he asked, and I understood why Faye was so off when I returned. "Yeah, NPC is such a tease. She should have given in by now," Bob demanded.
What did you have to will to see if the shopkeep will sleep with Edge?
Carl basked. I, in my infinite naivete, thought that if we just get through this hiccup, we can finally go and have our adventure. That is, if we let Edge and the shopkeep have a quickie or something, we can finally play. So I said, "Yeah, so she invites you to the back room to help her check if they have a random item in stock. You emerge after a while."
What? No way. What happens in the back room?
James the Rogue asked. "You sleep with the shopkeep?" I responded, confused. "Isn't that what you wanted to happen?"
Yeah, but what happens?
At this point, I'm way too uncomfortable, but I was a major pushover back then, so I thought I was just being oversensitive. Still, I thought I had the perfect escape plan for this situation. "Dude, knock it off. Ella is sitting right here."
So what? Ella's an adult. She probably hears you and Faye getting it on.
Dude, oh boy, this is worse than the foot story. This is the worst one. This is it. I cannot handle it anymore. Let us continue. Ella was in fact not an adult. She was 15 for God's sake, and no, she did not hear me and my girlfriend getting it on at any point. Faye was absolutely pissed, and I don't think Ella just cared at all. She was in her happy place drawing birds for her fox lady to sing with. At the very least, Carl knew how messed up this all was because he went really quiet, but Bob, the other guy, kept egging our edgelord on. "No, dude, I'm not going to get into the specifics," I answered.
Okay, then I'll just tell you what happened,
he replied with a smug smile. Faye asked Ella to help her find something in the kitchen, and Ella went without question. Faye shot me a look that could only mean, "Deal with your creepy friends or I'll start throwing hands," and they disappeared into the other room. Since it was only the four of us left, the quote-unquote friend group who'd spent our entirety of high school being weird, cringy nerds. I thought that since we were friends, I can just tell them nicely to knock it off because they made my girlfriend uncomfortable and they shouldn't include Ella in their weird garbage. I couldn't tell them how uncomfortable I was, I guess. They didn't seem to care, and James kept going. He thought that since Faye and Ella weren't in the room anymore, he got the green light to start describing what Edge and the NPC did in the back room. I will spare you all the details. To be honest, in that moment, I was reconsidering 4 years of friendship with all three of them, and I was too stunned to speak up or to stop it in any way. He just kept adding these really weird comments like,
"Isn't that how you and Faye do it? And girls like it that way, right?"
and just disgusting garbage like that. Safe to say, my birthday game was ruined. The only thing I could do is just call a smoke break and go out to the front of the house to cry a little bit. For other reasons, I'm really sensitive about my birthday and celebrating it without going into it. I had another traumatic experience on one of my birthdays, and since then, I always try to have a fun celebration so I don't need to think about the bad stuff that happened. But these assholes totally ruined it. I completely checked out, went back after a while, and without addressing what happened in the shop, kept them going on the adventure. We had a kind of fun combat encounter where Ella finished off a monster with a crit thorn whip, and she was really hyped about that. Faye got to bash some faces in, and the others were, well, they were there. After that encounter, we went to do something else, drank some more, and then went to sleep. I couldn't sleep a blink. I felt so horrible about the whole thing, and Faye was also just mad at me. Completely justified for not standing up against edgelord. It did not help that the three other assholes were sleeping in the same house as us. Since then, I can happily announce that I found my spine and don't tolerate even a fraction of this BS. I kept DMing for friends, then played some here and there. Now I have a very cool online group. If any of you guys come across this, I love each and every one of you. You're the best group ever. I'm in the process of putting together a girls only campaign, and even Ella seems interested, so fingers crossed that we don't ruin D&D for her forever. The Kitsune Druid will get a second chance to shine. Thanks for reading, and sorry for the long post. Oh my god, that was really, really, really bad. Here is the top takeaway for me, and this might be a bit of a rough take, but I'm just gonna say it. I do not recommend playing D&D with people just because they're your friends. They also need to be interested in the game. Now, of course, the people that this girl played with were definitely not her friends. They were just crappy. This kind of behavior is not the kind of behavior that friends engage in. They do not make jokes like this, because it's gross and cringe, and gross is the only word I really have. Back to the point, look, only play D&D with people who are interested in Dungeons and Dragons. They need to want to play the game. Playing with people just because they're your friends, that's a recipe for a game that goes absolutely nowhere. Because if they're just there because they want to hang out, they're probably not going to want to play the game. D&D requires attention and focus, and sometimes people just don't want to give that to a game. It's not like inviting people over to your place and then happening to play Smash Bros on the GameCube or something like that. No, this is something that requires time and actual attention. Just happening to play a game with your friends is totally different from trying to start a long-form D&D campaign. A campaign that needs real investment. If you want to start a long-form campaign and have it actually go somewhere, weekly sessions, all that, you need to invite people who are interested in that, not just interested in just hanging around. They need to actually want to play the game. Beyond the fact that these guys are just gross, they also just didn't care about the game. The edgelord was just there for horny points, and the two others, I guess they just wanted free drinks. That is not a recipe for a good D&D group. Now, of course, that is not the main issue here. The main issue here is that those dudes were just the worst. The only advice I can really give is don't be stuck in the mindset of a prepubescent, horny high schooler your entire life. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's it. That's all I've got for you. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do leave a like. Seriously, leave a like. Do you know how many takes this took? I had to actually read this garbage. Anyway, if you guys want to see more of my content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comments literally the worst to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.